Thank you, Terry. I hear from our tech guru, Aaron Lissaway, that our website is down at the moment. And he got that all arranged so that we could do our voting. But he says that he'll be able to share the link for voting in the comments on Facebook. So you should be able to click to that to get to the voting. Excuse me a second.
And it's pinned down, so.
Meaning it's on the top?
Yep.
And he pinned it, which means it's going to always be available at the top of the comments. We hope that this is going to work. We're doing our best here. So I too, of course, wrote a report, and I hope you'll have a chance to look at that. But I wanted to just talk with you for a minute or two before we get on to our business today. First, a couple things. I will summarize what I say in writing for you later so that you can see in writing what I am trying to remember to say. I haven't got to it yet today. Secondly, I think it's important, since we're just starting off, for me to say my understanding of the role of my role as a pastor here is that the congregation makes decisions. And I offer my advice. My role as a pastor is to preach and teach and to take care of the congregation. And all decisions belong to the church. So when I say things, I'm not pronouncing what we're going to do, but hoping that we can start a conversation. Given the conversation that we had last week, I'm well aware that the nominations and the budget are two concerns that we have, but there are a lot of other concerns. And I want to talk today for a minute about reopening and also give you an update on some discussions we've had about an audio-video system in the church. But we're not going to be able to answer all the questions, or it would extend the meeting out. And these are important conversations for us to have. So I got a hold of the leadership team, and they're very glad to step aside so that we can have a conversation next week on February 7th for all the questions surrounding what I share with you today. So there's going to be plenty of time for questions when we can look at each other on Zoom and have more time. So we'll talk next week on the 7th, which also happens to be my birthday. So, and it also happens to be the anniversary of the snowy day last year that I came to Windsor and met with the search committee for the first time. So I think it's a good day for us to get together and talk about the future of the church. So I hope you'll join us next Sunday after worship on Zoom for some question and answer time. So, three things. Safety first. My sense of safety is based on science. And I believe that the way forward is going to be for us to follow the advice of science and make sure that all of our decision making is grounded in science. I've been very encouraged by the witness of this church that we have remained closed, even though it's been very hard, and other churches have opened. But we have not contributed to the spread of the virus. And we lost Connie Hendrickson to the coronavirus. I was really looking forward to talking to him and hearing about the woodwork of the church and so on, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Connie before he died. But as of now, we have lost no other members to coronavirus. We've had about 20 members fall ill to it, and no one has been worried at all that they contracted it here in worship, nor took it from our worship out. And I think that that is something that is really helpful to us. So I think it's very important for us to continue that witness. I think that it says a lot to the community that is distinctive about us as a people, and I think that we should continue in that path. I think that we're going to be able to respond to that very well. Secondly, I am concerned about capacity. That is our ability, the resources that we need when we reopen. As I've been explaining to people in Sunday sermons even, the call is not mine alone to answer. And I think that there could be a tendency for people to be saying, you know, you need to take care of this, you need to get this done, thinking that I am responsible for it. But the reopening of the church is something that we do together as a congregation. And we're going to need the capacity, the resources, both in terms of staffing, but also for people who are going to show up and enforce safety standards that we agree to, that are grounded in science, so that people know they can safely enter the church. This is our work to do, and I think that capacity and our capacity to open is something that we have to work on together, and we're going to be successfully able to do that. Lastly, a word I'm not exactly sure what to use to characterize. We could talk about equity, we could talk about justice. I'm very concerned that when we reopen and when we start to celebrate and worship together, that doesn't come at the expense of people who will return later in phases because of health issues over time. I want us to return all together. And that means that if people can't be physically present in the building with us for a while, I believe that we need to offer online worship to our members while we have in-person worship in the church, no matter how many people are here. And I firmly believe that I don't want to offer anything that is second class or separate. When we worship, I think that we should all be together at the same time. And I think that's very important for us, for our future. So when we reopen, I'm very concerned that we don't leave people behind who aren't able to be with us. I think that that's my responsibility and obligation. It's the church's to decide, but that's the way I look at it. I think it ends up being a matter of justice, in fact. Included in this, we are hearing from people who are joining us who have found the church online and who have been grateful for our worship services online. So part of my sense of equity and justice is that our online services are an important part of outreach. We've added a new member, Jean Wentland, who found us because of where we stand and the messages she's hearing and the worship she's experiencing, and because she felt it was time to leave the Catholic Church and find a church home that was more in keeping with her sense of who God is. And she enjoyed watching our worship services while she had knee replacement. We have people who are shut-ins, who are away from us for a while, who find online worship to be deeply meaningful to them. And I think, along with talking about equity and justice, I think that we all are learning something about compassion. This time of isolation is so hard. We're all experiencing what it's like to not be able to be together. So perhaps we're learning a little bit something about what it's like to be a shut-in and unable to leave the house. Talked to Susan Norby this last week. She sends the YouTube link to Dorothy Dahl, 92-year-old Dorothy Dahl. I talked to Dorothy on the phone. She watches it on her computer. I sent her an email and she responded to me. So we have elder shut-ins who are finding this online worship a very gladsome consequence of this pandemic. It's a good thing that we've been able to connect with our shut-ins this way. And I think that we should recognize that compassion can be our guide. We know now what it's like to be isolated and how hard that is. And we know something then what it's like for our elders who are unable to join us physically. So whatever we do, I think that we need to pay attention to equity, justice, and to let compassion be our guide. And I know that we'll find our way forward together. And we're gonna figure all this out by talking together, by recognizing that we're all in this together and we're all working together. Now, when I first came to the church in July, looked down the road a little bit and I told the council we had this opportunity to start getting ready for when people come back. I told them that I didn't think that we'd be back in the church worshiping safely before Christmas, and maybe not even until the summer. Now I think we're hoping to be back, as long as the variants that are starting to come don't end up causing us too much trouble. But we were looking ahead at that point to what we would do when people come back, and saying that we should be considering some sort of a video sort of system so that we could make sure that we don't lose people, so that people who can't come back or come back in phases can remain connected to the church. That was persuasive to council. I talked with the Finance and Stewardship Board, and they looked and found that there was a $10,000 memorial gift from Betty Gene Denier, whose funeral homily I read because Marty Bauman sent it to me. And I was able to learn a little bit about Betty and understand why the church thought that the gift that she gave would be could suitably be used to use a video system to keep our church connected. Council voted to approve that recommendation and asked me to solicit bids for installing a kind of system that could do live stream what we were doing at that time with the worship service by having the prayers and everything on slides for people to see, which we'll do when we're able to be in the church together. I fully intend for us to have our prayers and the kinds of things that you were seeing online we'll be able to do when we're here together as a church. So we got some bids and formed a group. They looked at the bids. They chose a company whose system they thought was good, and they trusted their expertise. And they brought this to the council. And the discussion was difficult, and the vote was close and divided. That was November, and we turned into budget and Thanksgiving and Advent and preparing for Christmas, and the matter has stayed there. My understanding of council is that it represents the congregation, and I thought that the divided vote on council represented that the congregation would be divided on the decision. My understanding is that the division, the understanding really grew from two issues. First was about process or consent. I think that there was some sense that unless the whole congregation together took a vote to decide, that this kind of decision couldn't be made by council. That council doesn't have the consent of the congregation to make such a decision. I think that's an important thing for us to recognize and for us to figure out if we need, how we're going to go forward. I don't know what the process is, how the church wants to make decisions, whether the council is authorized to make these decisions or I don't know. But that was something that came up, and I think that's a very important issue for us to address. The other issue that was raised was about cost, which is a really hard thing for me to talk about because, you know, if I start talking about cost, the bids we received said that we could install a system for about $13,000 or $3,000 more than was already approved to come from the memorial fund, not from the operating money. But you know, once you start down this road, you know, if we install a video system, we'd find that we probably need to upgrade our sound system to digital and probably also add some microphones so that, you know, our cornerstone band would have some really good sound and we could sort of make it work and monitor it. And, you know, that would be another $7,000 to $8,000. And we might need to do lighting. I don't know. You'd have to have some sort of contingency fee. So we didn't put it all together, but, you know, it would be, it's significant. It would be a significant decision for the church to make. And it's a decision that we need to make. But the issue of cost is not only about finance. It's not only about how many shekels it costs us to install a system, but it's about what the cost is if we don't do it, or if we do something that doesn't serve as a model for the very best things that can be done, not based upon what other people are doing in this pandemic and how they're getting by, but where we want to go with it, how it can serve as an outreach tool in the future, how it can continue to reach out to our shut-ins and so on. So these are important decisions that the church needs to make, which brings me to the last thing that I want to say before I hand this over to Dwight. If you can't tell, you can see why we need some extra time to talk that we'll use next week. This is really about our vision, who we are and where we're going. Who we are is our vision and where we're going is our mission. What is our vision and mission? I'm sure that we could raise the money from the congregation to install a system if we thought that was who we are and where we were going together. I think that the church's current vision may speak to it, generation to generation. I don't think that we want to leave a generation behind, and I think that the next generation who we reach out to is important. So I think we could say that deciding to install such a system would be consistent with the church's current vision, but that vision was created a long time ago, and I don't think that we're really sure yet who we are and where we're headed. I think that we're learning that as we go, and the decisions that we make really do decide that. And I think that the congregation needs to help define this so the council knows how to make decisions so that we can go forward together. I know this is a lot, but as I've been saying, God is calling us through these challenges. I know that people who, in our disagreements, I know that we have the resources to find other ways. I'm not saying we need to go in a certain direction or we need to go with a sort of a system that I'm familiar with. Not at all. But I think that we know that we have some work to do because we want to continue to reach our shut-ins and reach out to outside of the church, and we'll figure out our way forward. I know we will. And I really look forward to talking with you about this. And I am very grateful for all of what you have to say, for all of our diverse perspectives. And I'm looking forward to the days ahead.